Life of Muhammad. 20. Medina, the new homeland. Thrib. Those who believed and emigrated and struggled in the path of God, and those who gave them safety and helped them, those are the true believers, really. For them is forgiveness and a generous reward of paradise. Quran 8:74. Many believers from Mecca had now settled in Yathrib, the emigrants were given houses to stay in by the Ansar, helpers. Now they were only waiting for the Prophet to arrive. The book of Isaiah 42:11 in the Torah mentions about the arrival of the last prophet. Let the people of Selah sing for joy. The city of Yathrib had many mountains, one was called Jabal Salih, meaning the mountain of Selah. The Jews knew the last prophet was going to arrive here, this is why they were in a city in Arabia in the first place. But could they believe in him if he was a non-Jewish prophet? Every single day the Ansar, helpers, would go outside the city towards Quba, waiting for the prophet to come. Every day they would go in the morning and wait until around 11 a.m. until the sun got too hot. One day they waited for him, but went back to their houses as nothing happened. However, in the distance the prophet appeared, but there was no Ansar, helpers, there. It so happened one of the Jews was on the top of a date tree plucking dates, so he was the first to see in the distance the prophet was coming. And out of the excitement of seeing the prophet, he shouted out, "O Arabs, your king has arrived." The Ansar, helpers, rushed out of their houses in the hundreds. The Muslims, the pagans, the Jews, everyone came out to see who the promised one was and how he looked like. God's messenger Muhammad entered Yathrib on a Monday in the 14th year of the prophethood. This is known as the first year of the Hijrah, on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal. A man from the Ansar called Bara bin Azib says, "I saw the Ansar helpers all dressed up and coming out. Over 500 men came outside, all of them armed and dressed to welcome the prophet. The women climbed up on the houses. The prophet was surrounded by hundreds of people all believing in him. For the first time, a new glimmer of hope was in the air. Pairing the believers and building a place for prayer. After settling in Yathrib, the first thing the prophet did was to pair the believers together. One immigrant would pair with one man from the Ansar, making them loyal brothers to each other. Then they would work together to make a mosque, a place for prayer. This mosque was called Masjid al-Nabawi, the mosque of the prophet. This is where Prophet Muhammad would lead the 5 daily prayers from, and this is where he would rule all of the city from. He made a few small rooms next door to this mosque, and these rooms were his house which he lived in. The Treaty of Yathrib. Now the prophet had made a place of worship and political power. The next thing he would make is a treaty, explaining the relationship all the tribes in Yathrib will have with each other for the betterment of the new prophetic state. Here are some points in the treaty. The Muslims from the Quraysh and Yathrib and anywhere else are one nation, and this nation is in itself to the exclusion of the rest of mankind. It is a unique nation, all the Muslims will unite against anyone who does wrong, even if it's one of our own who does the wrong. The protection granted by the Muslims is the same, and even the lowliest of them can give protection and a safety visa to any outsider. The treaty also mentioned. All of these Jews are one nation, along with the believers. Meaning they have a type of status that is equivalent to a nation within Yathrib. And the prophet said, they shall take care of their own disputes, affairs, blood money, internal crime etc. Meaning. They would have the right to judge over their own people by their own laws. Unless they decide to seek judgment from the Muslim leadership or if a dispute is between both Muslims and Jews. In that case they would go to the main courts in Yathrib. The prophet further said in the treaty, between the two shall, Muslims and Jews, be mutual support against those who fight the people of this treaty. And the Jews will stand with the Muslims as long as they are being fought. Meaning. Whichever Jewish tribe signs this treaty, they are agreeing to be loyal and on the side of the prophet during any conflict against outsider enemies. Another clause is that if any Jew wishes to convert to Islam, he shall be helped and protected, and nobody can harm him. The prophet also said in the treaty. Whatever disagreement occurs between the peoples of this treaty, which leads to internal arguments, shall be decided by God and his messenger. This means if there is a conflict between any two parties, the prophet himself will decide the final decision, like the Supreme Court. Changing the name of Yathrib to Medina and Tiba. Yathrib meant the land which is sick. People would say that when you enter Yathrib you get sick with a fever. The prophet did not like negativity and belief in superstition and bad luck, so he told the people not to call it Yathrib again, but to call it Medina tun Nabi, the city of the prophet. He also called it Tiba, the pure city. And he prayed to God for the diseases from this city to go away. Within the first year of the prophet's emigration, the ill and divided city of Yathrib had transformed into Medina. A pure city, with unity between the different tribes, a new central place for leadership and prayer from the prophetic mosque, a loyal brotherhood based on true faith between the emigrants and the Ansar, helper, tribes.